Welcome to the PocketGamer.biz podcast week in mobile games, where we discuss the week's news and provide some insights. I'm Craig Chapple, head of content at PocketGamer.biz. With me today is our news editor, Aaron Astle. Aaron, how you doing?
Yes, doing well, thank you. I'm back again. Any weekly viewers will know I was absent last week. I was watching the Attack on Titan finale at the cinema during our kind of usual recording time, which was excellent. So it was basically, it's been a bit weird because the final season started in like 2020 and then it's only really just kind of wrapped up.
2020? Because I was saying to you,
Yeah.
I think it was season 4, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
I watched some of it, and then
Yeah, I think,
and then they split into 3 parts. I think you said. And I
Yeah.
just lost track.
Because it was very good to watch, good to see on the big screen, quite dramatic, cinema scale, like audio and stuff. I went quite hardcore with it. I saw the dub and the sub on the same day.
On the
So I was
same
like,
day?
yeah. I was like, I had to sort of trek over to Oxford to go and see it, and it's like, while I'm here, I might as well see both versions.
Both versions. I mean, you've got to see the sub.
Yeah, but I'm quite partial to the dub for Attack on Titan.
No, come on, man. Those are the worst. With respect to the actors, but the voice is usually terrible.
If you haven't heard the Attack on Titan dub though, like Armin especially, excellent dubbed voice, better than the sub, dare I say. Anyway, so yeah, that was good. What about yourself?
Well, I'm going to get myself a Crunchyroll subscription again, finally, and then wait ages for the film, I guess. But the main thing this week for me is not so much interesting stuff in my personal life. It's just GDC has absolutely taken over. Obviously, we're doing Pocket Gamer Connect San Francisco as well. Just all the prep for that, and it's just gone a bit mental. And all the every single company just sends you news, which is amazing. Please, obviously, do keep doing that. But my inbox is just absolutely flooded now. Keeping on top is a challenge. There's been some talk that not as many people going to San Francisco this year. It's always hard to tell when you're there. It's easier to tell that maybe there's not as much companies doing an expo. I find it hard to tell if there's not as many people because I don't think there's a special event this year though. But usually, like if the State of Unreal, which is not there, which is ridiculous because I just assumed it was there. It's been there every year, I think, and I just saved my Wednesday morning. I was like, people, no, I can't do Wednesday morning. I'm full for meetings. And then I learned like the State of Unreal was taking place, I think, Unreal Fest in like June. I was like, what? Okay. Anyway, I think we'll jump straight into the news. But obviously the quick shout outs. So Pocket Gamer Connect San Francisco, as I said, coming up March 17th to 18th. Dubai Game Expo Summit, powered by Pocket Gamer Connect, May 7th to 8th. PGC Barcelona, June 3rd, 4th. PGC Summit in Shanghai, July 30th. PGC Helsinki, October 7th to 8th. And PGC Jordan is coming later in the year. And we'll be, I think, doing a couple other things as well. Busy year. And we'll hope to see you all at all those. Obviously, I'll be at GDC as well. I'll be at Gamescom Latam end of April. So if people want to meet me at any of those events, just hit me up. So news. And the biggest news, obviously, of the week is a report from Business Insider that Tripledot is the mystery buyer for AppLovin's games business at a price of $900 million. That's according to 4 people with knowledge of the matter. That's kind of the main thrust of the news. Earlier in the week, we also reported that some more details from AppLovin's annual report, which confirmed it was a private company. The deal is supposed to be $500 million in cash, $400 million in the buyer's equity. The deal could see the acquirer borrow up to $250 million in cash. Interestingly, AppLovin could provide financing through the issuance of a promissory note if Tripledot can't get all the money. And on a personal note, I was very frustrated. Insight into journalism where you can work on a story for a while and then someone beats you to it and all that work's just kind of like, oh, okay, that was worthless. Because we were onto that. I'd been told private London company. The day before I'd reached out to Tripledot to ask about it, and then the next morning I see it all over Business Insider. So on a personal note, missed that one. But kind of getting back to the actual important stuff. Tripledot, really interesting one. I think nobody had guessed that. I think when it was kind of more obvious that it was a private company earlier this week. I think the list very much narrowed. Everyone, like Playtika was on some people's minds. Miniclip potentially, although Miniclip's still down as a private company on Company's House, despite being owned by a public company. And yeah, some people assumed it was Savvy Games Group, but no. Tripledot. For those that don't know them, yeah, London developer. The founders are like some of the richest people now in the UK games industry. I think there was a Bloomberg report that called Akin, the president, the kingpin of mobile gaming. If you want to get an idea, it's their credentials. And they kind of fly under the radar. No one really, I'd say there's a lot of people that just don't really know much or anything about Tripledot. They make casual games like Wodoku. They did do an acquisition last year, I think, of Zephyr Mobile. Their last raise in 2022, they made, I think it was a Series B, $116 million. Valued them at 1.6 billion. So this would be a very transformative deal for them. I think Lion Studios kind of makes sense in terms of the games it already does. And then you've got all the other studios. Whether they keep them all alive, I guess we'll see. Obviously, hopefully, those studios keep running. I don't know how much they all fit into Tripledot's business, to be honest. Like Machine Zone, for example, Midcore. Does that work for them? But yeah, some of the others still casual games, but focus on in-app purchases. So yeah, big deal, surprise deal. Big news for the UK games industry. I just can't really get over it of all the companies. But yes, for those that don't know them, they are really well regarded in the UK. What do you think, Aaron?
I wanted to start by saying, yeah, you've held it together very well there. I was expecting slightly more explosive.
Wasn't quite my meltdown in the work. We still use Skype, which is now shutting down in our Skype window, when I was just like, "What? I can't believe it."
Yeah. No, so I was quite looking forward to the sort of 15-minute tirade in the podcast, but no, you kept it short and sweet.
I was super upset, just so people know. I was just like, I wanted to break the story, very selfishly. I wanted to break that story. And then I was like, I kind of did it in the end. I joked to a friend. I was like, I've got to now do the journalist thing of making sure everybody knows
that you knew.
I was on it. Got to make a social media post about it. So I put a little something in the story that we did to say PocketGamer.biz also understands it's like a London-based private company. Which from that I was able to guess effectively. Just from that, I was like, well, who could it be? It's basically Miniclip or Tripledot. So I just assumed some reason in the end Tripledot. And
yeah.
Through some investigating, you could find like close ties between Akin and either AppLovin's or Akin and. Well, yeah. Sorry, what did you think?
Obviously, big deal. It all goes through. It's funny how it works. It always seems like these big kind of deals come all suddenly all together, because like we just had the like Scopely potentially buying Niantic's portfolio, and then now we've got like the Tripledot AppLovin's thing. It reminds me a bit of like a few years ago when like Take-Two and Zynga news was coming out, and then all of a sudden it was the Activision Microsoft thing. It feels like whenever there's a big kind of industry shake-up thing, there's also another one that kind of comes out of nowhere alongside it. But yeah, of 900 million, quite a lot of money.
Well, it's compared to their last valuation, it's like more than it's more than half of their last valuation. To your point, I was thinking like before this, it feels like there's some like musical chairs going on with games companies at the moment after years of M&A and then a tough few years for the market, and then companies like pulling out of, like, for example, Aristocrat kind of pulling out of really of games except for Social Casino. Stillfront kind of, I think, struggling a bit. Who owns? Oh, sorry, I'm getting confused. Aristocrat did own Player. That's it. So musical chairs there. You got Embracer, kind of bit of implosion. So Miniclip kind of grabbing its Easy Brain. And so, yeah, it feels like buying off each other, studios that they bought not that long ago. Ludia, there's been a few like buyouts, I think, by management. Ludia being one. We'll get into that from Jam City. It's a really interesting time for that kind of M&A.
Yeah.
Right. So next up, Aaron, what have you got?
Yeah, so I'm starting off with Shift Up's Goddess of Victory Nikke, which has surpassed $1 billion in lifetime player spending on mobile. So that's according to AppMagic estimates. So yeah, it's got $1 billion in just under 2.5 years. It released on the 4th of November 2022. It made over $500 million in year one. So obviously it's had a bit of slowdown since then. It's like roughly another 15 months to make the other $500 million. But, by no means is that slow. I would take $500 million in 15 months. It has slowed down a bit. The November release back in 2022 was still its most successful month yet, with over 100 million. Whereas the second anniversary in November 2024 was its kind of most recent kind of big month, and that made about 50 million. So clearly, it's still a popular game, making a lot of money, and finally got to the big 1 billion milestone. Yeah, mainly from its Japanese players. They've contributed 58% of the lifetime spending. Again, this is all on mobile. They'll have made more from PC and stuff as well. So Japan's contributed about 600 million almost out of the billion, whereas the US is the second biggest market at 175 million, which is about 17%. South Korea has sort of been gaining a bit of ground on the US, whether it'll end up overtaking. So it's now at 170.8 million. So 3 and a bit million behind the US, which is quite impressive. But it's not a game I've personally played, but certainly written about it a few times. It's always nice to see a game hit a big milestone.
I played it a bit, and it's actually quite a good game. I don't like the obviously there's a big audience for this. The art style I find just a bit cringy, because the camera's obviously based behind them as you shoot stuff for obvious reasons. Yeah, it's actually quite fun to play. I was just looking at their last financials, and they said that it got us a victory, made up approximately 70% of their revenue in 2024, and then Stellar Blade I think made up just under 30%. So did I say 30? 70% for Goddess of Nikke and 30% for Stellar Blade. So yeah, still doing very well. I think revenue fell a bit, but I guess you could expect that. But it's still at a very high level. I mean, I'm sure they'd rather it was going up. But they're keeping it kind of running, so they're doing a good job. So anime's still big.
Yeah.
Around the world. Right. Next up, we have alluded to it a few minutes ago. We ran the headline for this story. Ludia plots M&A and hiring spree after Jam City exit. So I guess as we've been reporting quite a lot, and I think we talked about it on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Ludia has been acquired by a consortium of Canadian investors and is also the company's management for an undisclosed fee. So again, like a buyout, basically. Interestingly, the studio's GM, Jimmy Gendron, has been named CEO, and company founder and former CEO, Alexandra Tabet, is rejoining as a shareholder and chairman of the board. As I said, the fee wasn't disclosed, but in one of the comments by one of the investors, there's quite a big group of them. One of them is Investment Quebec, and they said they had put $18 million into the studio. The studios behind titles such as Jurassic World, The Game, and Jurassic World Alive, it was acquired 3.5 years ago by Jam City for $165 million. Convinced this acquisition is not that close to that. The deal had initially been intended to help Jam City achieve its long-held ambition to go public. We talked about this before, but that didn't come to fruition. But it went ahead with the purchase anyway. It raised a bunch of money and did that. At the time, so I was looking back at the old kind of announcement, and then I compared it to kind of the announcements we're getting now. And at the time, Ludia employed 400 staff. We've reported on some layoffs over the kind of intervening years from the acquisition to now. Ludia broke away from Jam City with pretty much all its staff. No, there were no layoffs apparently, because I've asked and they said no. They took 130 employees with them, and a few were left to work on Jam City games because they're already working on Jam City games. So they're taking 130. They used to have 3 times more people there. So that's a lot of staff that they've lost over the years. But apparently their portfolio still reaches 3.5 million players each month. Obviously they don't talk about the revenue that they're currently making. So we interviewed Jimmy, and there's a few things that amazed me. So Jimmy, the CEO. Firstly, what amazed me was that the studio apparently wasn't for sale, which we kind of knew, but he just started speaking to some investors and then brought the potential deal forward to Jam City, and then they opened kind of discussions with the investors. It just seems crazy to me that perhaps like Ludia's, as a total guess, perhaps Ludia's future wasn't that secure. But I can't imagine one of the staff, well, it's the GM, but I can't imagine the GM at a company that you own is talking to investors to buy the studio that they own. So that was interesting. But the other interesting thing is, as I said, they've kind of they've downsized quite considerably since the acquisition, but they want to get back to growth, and actually they plan to hire 50 more staff over the next year. I think a lot of that, Jimmy said, was to kind of, so as part of being Jam City, I think they had a lot of those publishing operations in place and sort of the business side of stuff, whereas I think they're trying to hire quite a lot of that so they can kind of, I guess, push on when they release new games and look after their live games. It also plans there's some M&A activity to acquire mobile studios. They didn't say how much they've got for that, but he did say like the investors kind of, basically worth billions of dollars. They have billions of dollars. I don't think they'll be spending billions, but it's interesting that they're going to do that after splitting off and after being downsized all these years. And it's fascinating that I know these investors want to make returns. And I did ask, is there pressure there? And he said, well, it's not a 2-year thing. And then, we sell up or whatever. Apparently it's for the long term. I guess you would say that. But apparently it's all for the long term. And so good luck to them. Just up little things like I think they're still planning on potentially using IP and creating original IP as well. Yeah, another big M&A story this week.
Yeah, I think we touched on it a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? When it originally was coming about. Yeah, it's nice to see Ludia is still going to be doing stuff, hopefully. So I think I said I used to play their Jurassic Park game for probably a good 4 years or so. Back in my early secondary school days, that was I'd finished school straight on Jurassic Park for however long. Homework could wait till I'd sorted out all my collected all my money from all the different little theme attractions and stuff. But,
what have you got next?
Yeah, so we're a little bit late to this one now, but I'd be remiss not to mention Pokémon Day, which was at the end of February. Again, as I wasn't here last week, otherwise I would have been, excitedly talking about it. Yeah, so they covered quite a few games. There's their mobile catalogue and a new game. The highlight for me personally was the Legends EA, which is coming to Switch and maybe Switch 2, but they haven't actually said that. The other big thing to come out of Pokémon Day was there's a new cross-platform game coming out, which is Pokémon Champions. That's going to be on Switch and mobile. Yes, it's being developed by the Pokémon Works in collaboration with Game Freak. It's supposed to be really a battle-oriented game that it's going to aim to make the core series battles kind of more accessible to people. And I guess give them the freedom to do more variety in the new games, because again, Legends EA has kind of got a different battle system to the main series. So I guess if Pokemon Champions ends up becoming the place for competitive play, as opposed to whatever the newest game is, so at the minute it's the battles for competitions are based in Scarlet and Violet. I guess if they have a dedicated platform for that classic battle format, that kind of makes sense and gives them a bit more freedom to change things. And players will also be able to transfer their Pokemon from main series games into Champions. So ultimately to battle with them as they would in the main series anyway. But yeah, in this kind of dedicated battling game, which is sort of surprising they've not done it earlier. It's been something people have wanted for quite a long time. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised they're finally doing it.
That's really interesting. I didn't really think about it like that in terms of the competitive side of it.
Because I think that's probably the main purpose of it. Obviously, it being on mobile will also has the benefit of reaching a bigger audience.
Actually, makes a lot of sense now the way you've put it. Because now I can see it does the things that for fans Pokemon Go. Obviously, you can do battles, but it's just tapping really. And so it does the things that game doesn't do. It brings the other element to mobile, basically. And I guess it reminds me now of Pokemon Stadium. If you ever played that?
I never played it, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they showed Stadium in the trailer, the reveal trailer. Because at first, I think some people thought there was going to be a new Stadium, but it kind of is in a roundabout way.
Okay, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Adamanic, though, that's I don't know if I mentioned on this podcast before. No one will remember it. Way back in the day when we had Pokemon Red and Blue, you could get a Mew, but you had to go somewhere to. You literally had to go to a physical location to download the Mew to get the 151st Pokemon. And went there with a friend, and my dad took us. And then we obviously had that, and we played Pokemon so much. We had like loads of level 100 Pokemon, we battle, etc. And then Pokemon Stadium kind of comes out, and so you could. I can't remember how it worked. You could basically link it up in some way to the N64, your game. So we did that, and I think that's how I accidentally deleted my friend's save file.
Oh,
So he's not only lost all of his all of his progress, obviously, all of his level 100 Pokemon. Can't get the Mew again, and the Mew was like a limited time thing to go to these places.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He wasn't really furious with me, not externally. I'm sure inside.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. I didn't know you had an original, legitimate Mew in Red and Blue.
I did. I might even still have it.
Yeah, that cartridge might be worth something these days.
Actually, I fear I don't still have it because this is really boring stuff. But back then, you could save multiple files for Pokemon, but the only way you could do that is to have like a separate save cartridge or accessory. I can't remember what it was. So I had this thing where I could save different files of Pokemon because you could only have, I think, one.
Yeah.
The actual game. So I probably lost. If it's on that, I've lost that. I'll be checking later and again. I've got my level 100 Venusaur, my first ever Pokemon. God, I tripped down memory lane here. So, any other big news from the day?
Yeah, from Pokemon Day. Yeah, so they covered stuff from each game. Like Go got an update. Pokemon Masters has its 5.5 year anniversary at the moment. Which I still play Pokemon Masters. I quite enjoy it. The trading card game as well, Pocket, so the mobile trading card game, got another booster pack. They have kept up with this kind of once a month thing so far, which seems to be serving them well. We've talked quite a few podcasts about how much money Pocket's been making.
It does all right.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm quite enjoying. I'm starting to feel close-ish to what Pokemon Go did of actually when I go out and seeing people playing Pocket, and me inadvertently making people download it. Like, because I saw my cousin recently, and my phone's notified me I had a pack to open, so I opened my pack, and he saw it, and he was like, "Oh, because he's about my age, so he remembered collecting the cards as well." So then. Like the next time I saw him, he showed me he'd downloaded it and was showing me his collection. And so he's been playing it every day. And then he texted me over the weekend to say he'd been playing it when he was out with his friends. And then so now they've downloaded it.
Spreading like a virus.
Yeah. So yeah, it's quite cool to sort of see it in the real world a little bit more. Because like Pokemon Masters, I don't know if I've ever met anyone else in real life who's played that game, but
it's fascinating to me that all these announcements, like how central mobile is,
or
at least was to this one, but how you realize like, oh yeah, there's actually loads of Pokemon stuff already on mobile. Well, technically two. There are other games that no one plays,
because they used to. These Pokemon Day presentations, they used to spend way more time on the mobile games, and I think people got a bit tired of it because they'd kind of give each one the same amount of time. So you'd end up with like a 40-minute presentation, and like 35 minutes of it would be the mobile stuff, and then you'd get the trailer for the new Switch game, which, as good as some of the mobile stuff is, that's a little bit imbalanced because it's kind of all driven by the main series.
If you're going to announce the Switch game, that's what people are there for, right?
Yeah.
the big names. Yeah.
So yeah, they seem to have kind of struck a good balance now of showing everything they need to show from the like 6 or 7 mobile games without it taking like an hour.
And I like they're not afraid of it either, because this is completely different. But like in the past, you have like big publishers with their treasured IPs. To be fair, in some ways, it's almost like they're afraid to announce the mobile version of it. Sometimes because the mobile version is rubbish, but other times there's just no confidence there. Like if if you've made a good game, you should be happy to reveal it to that audience. If you feel like it's not going to be appealing to that audience, you should probably ask yourself, why are we doing this in the first place? Other than to make loads of money, I guess. All right, so was that all the news from Pokemon there?
Yes, yeah, pretty much.
There's quite a lot there. So we'll try and go through the last ones fairly quick. So a big story this week for the UK games industry. Jagex CEO Phil Mansell stepped down. So he's been with the company for 14 years, and I think he was CEO for 8 years. So he's been there a while. He's kind of Jagex, RuneScape kind of through and through for his career. So it seems like he's done a good job of kind of keeping that game going. It's now broken $2 billion lifetime revenue. RuneScape's, which includes obviously old school RuneScape and RuneScape 3, because they split it off a few years ago. He's been replaced in the top job by John Bellamy. I've forgotten his role. I don't have it in front of me. I think he was Chief Commercial Officer, I want to say, at Huge Games a few years ago. And he's also worked at Jagex before in M&A and strategy at a time where I'm pretty sure they didn't do much of it. I think they were building up that publishing stuff, their Jagex partners, which also felt like it never really went anywhere. He's in charge. He was also an advisor for CVC. So if anyone remembers, Jagex, I think it was last year or the year before, I think it was last year, was bought once again, keeps changing hands like every couple of years, it feels like. They were acquired by CVC, which again, John Bellamy's advisor for. And I think Haveli, I'm not sure how much for actually. I think they've been bought in the past for like $1 billion, so possibly around that figure. But yeah, the change at the top is interesting because it feels like it just feels like that John, at least from the outside, I've no idea of him personally, right? But it feels like a very different appointment. And I think when you first look at it, I think people's thoughts will be very cynical. Okay, the guy that apparently he's played RuneScape for 20 years. I don't know if I believe that. It might be true. It's in the press release, or they talked about it on the video card. But like, I think when it's a guy that's from the investment group that acquired Jagex, when they're put in charge, it feels like, oh, we're putting him in charge, and that they want serious business changes at the company. And so it makes me think that, I don't know, they're going to push through some stuff like or like layoffs incoming. This is all absolute speculation. It could be that Jagex just goes down another attempt at a path of growth. So for years, they've tried to break out of RuneScape unsuccessfully, and sometimes very publicly so. Like in the past, I can't remember the name of this really old game. It's gonna drive me mad. But one of them was Transformers. That was obviously a big kind of failure for them, really, and then they tried to turn it into a different kind of game. That didn't work. Then they did Jagex Partners. I think they published a couple things, but it doesn't feel like the big operation that they were trying to get to. And so they've been, stuck on this very successful IP. We'll see what kind of changes, if any, that they make to that. I think they do. I know that they're very close to the community, and the community votes on a lot of things. I think particularly for old school RuneScape. So any big changes that they're going to make, they get the community to vote. And I think it's very challenging for any kind of business style decisions to get through that, because if the players are going to vote, they're probably going to vote for the things that they're used to and that they like, and not, I don't know, like, can we make this more expensive? Can we change the monetization or whatever it could be? Those things are going to be very hard to push, like major changes are going to be very hard to push through. So I'm intrigued to see if one of the roads they go down is to try and grow RuneScape's revenue further, how they deal with that with players, and then how the players react to any changes. Again, this is all speculation. I don't know what they're going to do. It could be business as usual, but it's just the style of the change does make me wonder. We'll try and grab them for an interview, and so they can go on the record exactly what their plans are. Any experience with Jagex or RuneScape?
No, I had a few friends that played it when we were at primary school. But I was more of a Club Penguin man, and a few of my friends were on RuneScape.
Very different games. Very different games.
Yeah, the school was a bit divided. You had to be in one camp or the other.
I'm pretty sure everyone has played RuneScape at least once.
I don't think I have, to be honest. Maybe I'll have to change that. We'll have to do a special podcast, like a live stream, and my first time playing.
Like a few minutes, I think. I remember just logging in. I was like, I think I was on a school computer as well, so obviously it wouldn't run very well. But I obviously blamed the game because I was a kid.
Mm.
I was like, well, this is rubbish. Like, I'm never going to play this. But yeah, very still very popular to this day. Right, Aaron, you've got the last story, big one.
Yeah, so I thought, one of the quick one on the kind of jobs newsy front is that Supercell has appointed Lasse Seppänen as general manager of its new London office. So, of course, Supercell officially closed its 100% acquisition of Space8 recently. So that's sort of forming the backbone of Supercell London. In a statement to PocketGamer.biz, Supercell said that Seppänen will define the overall vision for the studio and work closely with the London-based teams to bring it to life. So he's been with Supercell since 2019 and has worked as games lead for Everdale, Heyday and Boom Beach. More recently, he was the head of game production services and also carried on working on Boom Beach. And yeah, now he's going to be general manager of the London office.
They've also been doing a lot of work to kind of build up the London studio. I think there were some layoffs in the kind of the transition. But they've appointed some senior people. I think they're still recruiting new jobs. They've been working on Heyday, they're working on Squad Busters, they've got a new games team. Lasse, obviously a lot of experience at Supercell. He previously founded a company called PlayRaven that made some strategy games. They were acquired by Rovio. He's previously worked at Remedy, Digital Chocolate. I feel like he's been around the Finnish games industry, very experienced in the sector. But the weird thing that surprised me is because I guess in my head I still don't see Supercell as like a normal games company. Maybe naive and stupid, but I just imagine like when they said when I saw that they were hiring the GM and it was Lasse, I think would be great at it. I was like, oh yeah, I just kind of assumed the studio would run itself. like obviously you got the game leads, etc., right? But I didn't think there'd be an official GM that sets the vision for London itself. I thought it was basically an extension of, maybe it is still, but basically an extension of the Finland HQ, and it just happens to be based in London where they can get other talent. And then the games teams run themselves, right? And then obviously you have some other functions that are necessary, like HR and other operations. But a GM that sets out the vision, I'm curious what that will be. Hopefully we can speak to them soon about that. But it just sounded like a very normal company hire appointment, because it's already been there. Of just like, yeah, he's the GM. And literally every other studio has this. But with Supercell, it's like, that's very normal. That's a surprise. Probably speaks to a lot of the changes that they've made over the past few years, which seem like they're kind of working in some ways. Obviously, again, kind of go back to Brawl Stars and how recently the game lead on that, Frank, said that bigger team was part of the reason that they were able to really put the game into overdrive, I guess, and experiment a lot. And then ultimately, they're kind of, you could argue some of it luck, but obviously a lot of it hard work and the changes that they've made, I guess, and the talent, obviously, to suddenly make that game like more successful than it's ever been. So yeah, a lot of structural changes. And they're adding like the management layers. This feels like just another management layer, basically. Is my point. Well, I spent 5 minutes getting to it's another management layer point. But yeah, super interesting. So really good news for London that they're building up the studio. But it's a real shame. It's just a real shame to see the Space8 name kind of go. We'll see what the future lies in store for Supercell London and what new games they might make and if those ultimately get released. Right, that brings us to the end of the Week in Mobile Games podcast. I nearly forgot the name again. Thanks very much, Aaron, for being on the show this week.
Yeah, good to be back. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for talking about some Pokemon.
Filling Chris's shoes, big shoes to fill this week. He had even bigger shoes to fill last week.
Thank you.
But yeah, thanks very much. We hope you all enjoyed this episode. Please do send us feedback, and we'll see you on the next show, pre-GDC. Have a good weekend. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.